What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Filip Latocha, and today I unveil my 12-week Chicago Marathon training plan, which started this Monday, and I've been going through basically this entire week and will continue until October 9th. Basically, we're going to talk about some of the workouts that are involved with it, why I came up with the structure that I did, and if you're interested in using a similar version of this training block, you're also more than welcome to, and you get some tips and tricks on how to work with it. So, before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed to this channel, watching the content, thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Without further ado, here's my training block for the Chicago Marathon. So, might have to move over to the side here, but as you can see, there's going to be some big mileage on some of these weeks, and there's some other things also going on as well, such as races at the bottom that I'm going to be keeping track of. But for the most part, maybe the veteran marathon runners and trainers and maybe coaches will see that this follows a very traditional training block pattern of usually 3 weeks of hard work and then a deload week. So as you can see, my first week, I start off with 55 miles, then go 60, then 65, and then I have a deload week here, which also leads into a race. So this is kind of going to be the trend more or less for this entire training block, as you can probably already see. And then at a first glance, you can see I maximize at 90 miles in my peak training 2 weeks before the actual Chicago Marathon, and then race day is on the 9th, of course. So lots of big stuff happening here. I'm going to break it down, but this is the general plan of what I'm going to try to follow. It's been pre-approved by my coach. All the workouts in between, we're going to kind of sort out, work out, adjusted distances accordingly. But we got some key workouts also figured out and when we're going to try to execute them as well. So the obvious rule here, as you can see, is why did we start off with 55 miles? Well, my baseline right now is comfortably at about 45 to 50 miles a week. Strava thinks my average is about 40 to 37 miles a week. That's counting time off from potential injuries or deload weeks because of, things like that. But I can probably handle 45 to 50 miles a week normally. So adding that extra 10% of my maximum load into the first week is probably a good start. And then adding another 10% into 60 and then 65 as well. That's a good place to kind of peak for the first block of the training regimen. And the long run in this particular window is going to look something like this. Like the maximum distance is probably going to be about 17 to 18 miles in this first 3 weeks. And it's going to follow a type of long run I've done before, which is 5 miles easy. And then in the center of this workout, it's going to be somewhere between 5 to 7 miles of maybe marathon to 10K pace. And then you're going to have 5 miles off. So you're going to have 10 miles of easy work, but in the center of that marathon, you're going to have some tempo / both, maybe some race pace work to essentially work with. And this is a common training plan and training run for a lot of people. Maybe not necessarily on the long run, but this is what I'm trying to do basically in its case. And if my goal is to run a sub 3 hour marathon, then I would need to run a 6:50-ish by race day, maybe like 6:49 if I'm feeling, extra zazzy, I guess. And the idea there then is that my maximum pace for my easy runs needs to be about 7:50 per mile, if not less. The idea is there to keep your easy runs easy, or keep your easy sessions or brick pieces of your workout easy, and then keep the fast stuff fast, of course. So that's going to be phase 1. And then, of course, the Lake Zurich Triathlon Sprint. It looks like I'm officially not doing that. I'm just mentally not in for training for the triathlon at this very moment. And 2, I kind of missed the cutoff to sign up, so whoops. But I do have, in my deload week for phase 1, the Algonquin 5K, 10K. I haven't decided whether I'm going to do the 5K or 10K. Probably the 10K because it makes the most sense in terms of a distance kind of workout thing. But it's a good thing it's on a deload week, so I kind of taper into it. So great. Next up, we do have phase 2, which it's very likely I'm going to be in Colorado during this training block. So there's going to be a lot of hard work at elevation in this case, where we start with a 60-mile week, a 70-mile week, and then I go 75 miles the third week there. This is going to be a very tricky and very crucial block to nail at elevation because I've never done this before, and it's going to suck and it's going to hurt. But all this work here is going to include some cross training such as biking and swimming, because I am officially confirmed for the Chicago Triathlon. So I have to continue training for this race, and I do want to continue PRing for this race if it's still possible. And there's going to be a lot of work that's going to be done in the mountains at this time, if I end up in the mountains. If not, it might be okay. I still have plenty of work I can do in the hills of, Algonquin. It's pretty sick, so I guess we'll be okay. So, of course, there's that deload week where I'll be traveling back to Chicago, doing some easy work. Maybe I'll do the Chicago Triathlon Super Sprint. Maybe I won't. We'll see. But that's kind of what's going on. And then into the final phase of the training block. It's 4 weeks of hard work and then 2 weeks of the taper that lead up to the race. The only caveat here that's a little bit different than most cases is that this is a 4-week build rather than a 3 and then the 2 taper. I want to throw in this 90-mile week. I really want to do it because I don't necessarily feel as confident in my distance work as I have in the past. And I think hitting that 90-mile window is going to be extremely awesome and probably a big confidence booster if I can stay injury-free during that period of time. And also, the maximum distance I've ever done in any sort of marathon training block was for the Tokyo 2020 marathon, and I did hit an 80-mile week that particular week. And as I was gradually building that fitness, by the time I did that 20-mile run in like the ice cold weather of Chicago, I felt awesome. Like I could just keep going on for miles and miles. And 2, I wasn't exhausted after the 20 miles. I felt like I could have kept going. And I think, in fact, I may have even done a 2-a-day that day after the 20 miles because of just how good I felt. So it's a big confidence booster for me personally if I can get that 90-mile week, in addition to, of course, that 80-mile week beforehand, just to meet the previous volume and distance that I had in 2019, 2020 when my mind was still, at a different job transferring into my current cybersecurity job, and life was good. I was talking to people and nothing can stop me. Whereas now there's a little bit more obstacles. I'm a little bit older. It would be nice to be able to revalidate that for myself that I can hit these numbers in my training block. And then of course the taper, as you can see, we cut that distance down by 50% and then another 50%. I may cut it even more because I know I'm pretty bad at tapering. So I may go, above and beyond it to only run 15 miles this week before the Chicago Marathon. We'll see how that ultimately goes. So for the last 2 training blocks in terms of long runs, there's going to be 2 particular key workouts that I'm looking into. So in phase 2 right here, if I'm in the mountains, the plan again is going to be 5 miles of easy running. Then I'm going to try to do about 10 miles of maybe actually 7 to 8 miles of some sort of marathon to half marathon pace workout, and then 5 miles off again, just to keep that routine kind of in the play of things. So maximum run in this training block might be 18 to 20 miles, maybe a little bit more, depends on how everything goes. I would like to try to do 2 long runs by this period of the training block, but again, it's contingent to how the body's feeling, how my recovery's going, how diet's going. Lots of factors involved with being able to hit these numbers. But by phase 4, so when I'm in this 80 to 90 mile week point, there will be probably 2 long runs a week or 2-a-day sessions at the very least. And by then, this is the key workout long run that I'm going to try to implement into the workout, which I kind of stole off some elites who were training in Kenya. I believe it was Jake Robertson who recently had a video about this particular workout. I don't think I'm going to hit his paces necessarily, but I do want to have a similar version of this workout, maybe add some more distance to it. But the idea is he does some kind of warm-up where it's about 1 mile, maybe 1K. I think I'm just going to kind of get the measurements correct for myself at some point. But what I would do is probably 1 mile of easy work, and then I do 10K at race pace. And then I do 1 mile off, 9K at race pace, 1 mile off, 8K at race pace, and then whatever remainder distance to hit whatever, distance I need for that particular week or weekend. So this is a really good looking workout, especially because it's just that final build, which would simulate some of the Chicago Marathon conditions and, more or less that interval feeling that you're going to get as you start running the marathon in particular, rather than negative splitting it in sort of a static fashion where you start slow and then you get faster gradually. You're going to kind of just interval your way into having a negative split. And that's probably the best solution to this race if you're kind of like me and you're not necessarily someone who's in love with distance running, but is really interested and really likes it and needs to kind of keep it entertaining. So intervals for me is going to be kind of a big thing in that sense. So that's really the key long runs that I'm going to have there. But the week is going to look something like this. I'm going to see if I can like potentially write this out for you guys. Hopefully it shows up here. But Mondays, these are going to be also very easy runs post long run weekend session. Whether that long run is on a Saturday or Sunday is to be determined, or it may just rotate depending. But this Monday is going to be somewhere between, of course, 7 to 10 easy miles for my Mondays. I'm going to, of course, add or release distance accordingly, but that's kind of what I'm looking for. Tuesdays, it's going to be track work. So if I do track work on Tuesdays, that kind of follows the trend I'm doing right now, where of course it's going to be used more for building speed, whether it's going to be 1200s, 1600s, in some sort of intervals, maybe like 8 by 1200s with 400 off, maybe 8 by 1600s, and then have some intervals in between, maybe throw some 800s even in there just for some additional sprints and whatnot. But this track session is ultimately going to help when it comes to these specific long run key sessions that I have. Wednesdays for now are going to be cross training days that involve biking and swimming for the most part. I'm not going to talk about my triathlon training plan in this particular block, only because it's not really important for my marathon training in this case, but there will be some swimming and biking involved on this particular day. It's not to say that Monday and Tuesday won't either, it's just I'm listing just the running here, right? So this day is probably going to have maybe 4 to 7 miles of running. Tuesday we'll have like maybe 6 to 10 total. And then Thursdays is my group run days. So these days are going to be like by default easy because I'm running with a group. So this pace will be maybe more at like a recovery pace. Maybe if the group wants to do like a track workout, I'll do something at a recovery kind of sense. This day will be normally about 4 to 6 miles approximately. So it's nothing too crazy. Fridays, also, they're going to follow a standard of like an easy run of 5 to 7 miles, as that's kind of like the gateway into my long run session. My coach kind of disagrees with me doing this on Fridays. My coach is more on the side of taking the day off before your long run so you're like maximized in terms of energy. I think if I take 5 to 7 miles easy enough, I think I'll be okay. So that's kind of why I'm throwing Friday like this, and if it needs to be a rest day, then Friday can be a rest day if necessary. So, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday are both going to be interchangeable in terms of the distance runs. I would prefer that Saturdays are my distance runs, mostly because with my running club, we do have that group run day as the long run, so I can do a portion of my long run with that group, maybe like the easy pieces, and then separate from the group as necessary in order to do like the faster pieces and like meet up with the group on the way back or something like that. So Saturdays would be like my aim for the long runs, and then Sundays, as I'm building up in this case for like the Chicago Triathlon, this will be, we'll put it here, long run. And then Sunday could be like a more recovery day with, again, a focus of cross training involved with potentially like a long bike ride, maybe a long swim or something like that. Or if it's a race day, then maybe you kind of like maybe move this long run day to Thursday, for example, and then switch those workouts as need be. So there's a bit of flexibility in here. But this is the training block that I've used for like the majority of my marathon running training career, and it hasn't really failed me at all. Now, when I'm more particular about going triathlon running 50-50 style, Thursdays become my long run days. But if we're focusing strictly on the marathon in like a 70-30 to triathlon, this is the block I'm going to use. And I'm pretty confident that this block and this setup is going to work for now. If at some point I get too tired or the load of training like this becomes too much, then of course I can adjust it as necessary. But that being said, 90 miles by the end of September is kind of a big deal for me, because by then I'll be a senior citizen. I'll turn 30 at that point, so hitting a 90-mile week at the age of 30 will be kind of sick. And doing a 90-mile week in preparation for the Chicago Marathon without feeling too exhausted or too injured is going to be huge in terms of morale for myself and, focus for the race itself. So this is my Chicago Marathon training plan. If you guys have any questions or any critiques or suggestions, just let me know in the comments below. I want to see what you guys are up to as you're training for your respective Chicago Marathons. But yeah, here we go. I'm going to have a part 2 to this video coming up, but this is kind of the general breakdown of what I'm looking to do this Chicago Marathon 2022 season. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.